Good morning. It is 10:33 a.m. So close. It is Sunday, and that means it is time for Sunday Club, a weekly Ruby on Rails live stream where each week we do some Ruby on Rails together. We build an application, and at the moment, that application is an event ticketing and registration application. And eventually, we want to get to the point where people can organize events and have people register to take part in groups. We don't have a huge amount of follow-up from last week, and it is incredibly hot here in the UK. There is a heat wave going on, and I know, I think I've said this before, that other countries experience temperatures like this on a very regular basis, but we as a country have decided not to optimize for it, and so our houses are designed to keep heat in, and so everything gets very hot. If you can hear noise in the background, it's probably my fan whirring away. It is not doing enough. We don't have generally air conditioning in our houses, so it's real hot. Let's not worry about that. Let's just crack into it. Let's talk about what we're going to do. Let's just jump over to the screen straight away. All right, what did I call this stream? I've already forgotten what I said we were going to do. I have said bug fixes, quick features, and building seed data. So I want to get to the seed data because I think how I approached this in another project once was kind of interesting and at a small scale, and I'd like to revisit that. But on the screen at the moment, we have a couple of bits and bobs that we have still got in our little planning list that we put together ages and ages ago in Notion. And I was just tagging a couple of bugs in there. And the app is only like an exemplar app at the moment, so it's no big deal if they don't work. But we sort of want to just we want the only things to not work to be the things that we're sort of aware that we've left half finished, rather than just having things that are actively broken. And so we can also have an example of putting a test here to catch this. So an order fails to save when the validations fail, which I don't think I've worded that very well, because that sounds right. Like an order fails to save when the validations fail. The instance variable is not reassigned. Let's go take a look at this. So let's go and take a look. I haven't done any prep on this, by the way. This isn't a bug that I'm like, oh yeah, we'll just kind of show the nuts and bolts. I'm not quite sure. Okay, so order fails to save when validations fail. So is that the validations on our attendee that we're doing here? Do we have... What does an attendee do? And again, we're just jumping straight in. I'm not going to do too much context or anything. We don't have any validations on that. Maybe we have something at the database level for attendees. Has to have an order ID, has to have an event ID. Events. We're building it through the order. So that's where it's getting that. Created out and updated that. Rails will give us, so this should work. And the name is the owner name. So in my little note here, I've put the instance variable is not reassigned. So is this already been fixed here? Is that what was happening? Where there was no event working? Let's just try and get this to fail and we'll see if we can get there. So we've got a user, and what we really want is some events. Great, and so we can then go to the public page of this event. I think we can just do this in a private window. I don't think we need to make a user. So we've got a family fun run event. We can buy a ticket and we can put in example stuff here, and then we can do confirm order. Thank you for your order. Okay, great. So if we go back, refresh this, it doesn't create a user or anything. There's no association there. And let's just break this. Is this what is failing? Just gonna break this temporarily and see if I can recreate what I meant here in the error. And of course, this is yet another example, we talk about this on the stream all the time, of you know, this isn't a real bug report. In a real bug report for your job or for anything sensible, you would write more than one sentence. And you would write like reproduction steps and things like that. I've just jotted something down on the stream and screwed myself over by not making it useful in any way. So let's go and look at attendees. So this one has attendee, but attendee name is not mandatory. So actually I've picked the wrong field. So what we should do is take this one out. There we go. So let's see if that breaks it. So let's do it again. Okay, so it does fail. And just re-render. So I think this might have been solved perhaps with this line here. Was this done a lot later? Yeah, so okay, so that isn't causing any major issue. And then let's put an issue here where we don't create an order number. Let's just check if that's validated on order. Order number is okay. So we won't assign an order number. Let's see what error we get now. Okay, so we still just get those. Let's make this valid again. See what that does. Yeah, great. So we're not getting a specific error message, but it's also not proceeding, so it's not broken. Okay, so I think this might just be bug order fails to save. The instance variable is not reassigned, so yep, no idea what I meant here, but I think this might have just gone away. So this will reoccur naturally if we bump into it. So set a comment here. Attempted to reproduce. Oh, I don't know my shortcuts here. Okay, so couldn't work out what I was trying to indicate. Writing bugs up on the stream needs to be more than a single line. And then done. Great. Okay, cool. Put that over there. All right, so then on the stream today, I wrote bug fixes. That was the bug fix. Quick features. So quick features. Send a confirmation email to user on successful order. So we had done a bunch of email stuff in previous streams. And we spoke about this before in terms of like, I just want to undo all of this stuff. Discard all these changes. Yep, they can go. Cool. So we can say we have this orders control, confirmation show, and then we have orders controller here. So we have create and order.save currently represents a successful order. If we literally just save it, that is the only indication. I'm sort of wondering if we actually want to defer, even as a quickie on the stream, if we just want to defer doing this. So we touched on in the previous stream where we were adding like an email service provider. We also touched on how do you send the emails. So we had things like, we actually built a little mailer. I don't know if any of those got persisted because I think they were all just dummy. Oh no, we do have an order mailer. Order confirmation. L2. Okay, so we could add this here. Okay, so this could be like order mailer dot order confirmation. It didn't take anything. Okay, so it doesn't even take the order as an argument. Fine. I think it just says thank you or something like that. It's like a one-liner. And I think we touched on what are the million options that you have. So you could use something like a pub sub library. I think we talked about Whisper and things like that, where you could just raise an event and then the event could have a listener that that fires off any notifications you need, email or any other type. We talked about having some sort of service object slash some other similar pattern of something like that takes away the idea of confirming the order and sending the emails from there, or that could raise an event. And I think what we could do here is sort of say, did we end up putting in a job queue of any sort, like anything that integrates with so we have active job base. So is there an actual, do we actually have a gem for this? Really just skimming. I don't remember doing this, so I don't think so. I don't know if you try and fire an active job, but you haven't set an engine under the like a queue service under the hood. What does it do? Does it just? I don't know. I don't know what the defaults are. Is it in any of this stuff? Yeah, here we go. Okay, so user rule queuing backend for active job and separate queues per environment. So what's in application then? Nothing. Okay, great. So presumably you would just get an error. It would say, hey, there's no queue adapter here. Is there one in test? Well, it doesn't matter for test, I guess. Is there one for development? No. Okay, cool. No, just nothing. Okay, great. So we don't need to worry about queuing anything because we haven't implemented a queuing system. Fine. Okay. But I'm sort of wondering, like, okay, so we know that this isn't how we would actually want to send the successful confirmation email, but I'm actually wondering if we put this one-liner in the controller for now, and much like all of the other million placeholders that we leave, because we don't really do any diligence on the stream, we just sort of like code the thing out. At least there would be a test somewhere, a system test that was like, hey, did you get an email at the end of it? Like you should go through these pages and then get an email. And then we can have a test that works in a happy path only, but then eventually we would still need to make that test pass even if we did one of the million other options we have for sending emails. So let's do that. Because at least then I'll feel good about getting this little planning list that we made a million years ago cleared. So that's our mailer. That's the email. I'm not going to worry about actually doing anything real in the mail. It just says thank you or something silly like that. Let's put what deliver now. Is that the non-queue based one? Deliver now, deliver later, deliver now, bang. Okay, yeah, so deliver now should do. And what we want to do is add some tests for that. So this is not ideal. It doesn't, it sort of does meet our needs, I guess, because our needs are, this is very basic and kind of exemplar code. But what we really care about is, let's say, adding some tests so that we know we're going to have to come back and do something proper. So system test creating an order. Here we go. Yes. Okay, great. We have no helpers or reused versions of this. This is all literally okay. Fine. We're just doing these Okay, great. Those two have content. So I think we will probably want two tests. One in our request spec, I would guess, that checks that the mailer got called. And then presumably in a system test, we would want something higher level that's like, did the email contain like the right copy if you're using mailers and you're attaching the email content to the event that got fired or the action that the user took. So let's see, do we have one for this? Orders controller create. Let's just... Why is that not collapsing down? Oh no. One of my VS Code of it, either I've changed or VS Code has changed. I wanna, like, what's the thing? Collapse. No. Fold. K. Oh, where's K0 gone? Fold all. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Oh, okay. I must have installed an extension that's overriding that. So let's do fold all. Ooh, okay. Something is making that not fire. So that if I do K2, that's not firing. Oh, so you can see down here, Command K was pressed, waiting for second key of chord. So then when I type in key numpad 2 is not a command. K2, I get nothing. Interesting. Okay, so that is very frustrating, but okay, we can just do it manually. So in create, with valid params, creates an order, creates an attendee with the correct attributes, and let's add in it sends an email to the order owner. Oops. Okay, something funky is going on here, but let's... My keyboard, I'm not really sure what's happening here. Okay, so... so, okay, I think we might actually have to do a little bit of effort, because at the moment it doesn't send an email to the email owner. It just says send an email to a hard-coded email address. So that's all fine. Okay, so for the stream we sacrifice a lot of things that would normally be true in the real world. Okay, so it sends an email to the order owner. So we want to do the create action, and we expect order mailer to have received order confirmation, I think. So let's do this and just check whether that worked or not. And what line is it? 78. So next week, what I want to do is sort of get back into Sketch and back into Notion and actually plan out some work, because I haven't really been into order mailer expected to have received order confirmation, but that object is not. Oh, I see. How low can we do that? Here, I guess. And I wanted to receive order confirmation. Does that work? Yeah, so I think in some upcoming weeks, we really want to plan out some proper work. Because at the moment, over summer, I've not been... Oh, right. Okay, so deliver now. Yeah, when we're doing these... Does that work? I've done that really quickly. I think I missed a couple steps out there. Yeah, that one passes. Is that how we want to test that? It gets us to where we want to be, which is like, did this method on this mailer get delivered now? Fine. So we're just mocking out the order confirmation, returning just a double that accepts deliver now. We don't really care what happens to it. We just care that it received it. So maybe that's not ideal, but again, for the stream, it'll get us to where we want to go. Okay, so that's the first half. The second half of testing that is, how do you now test like the end-to-end version of this? So like Rails system test, check email. Oh, there used to be like a, what's the gem that tidies up checking like that? There's like a deliveries collection that you can have. Well, deliveries, but there was a gem that gave you like an API around it. Deliveries. Oh, I literally Googled this before. I'm sure I then... Okay, so I think have we done this on the stream before? Oh, there's definitely something wrong with my editor today. I wonder if it's just exploding in the heat. Okay, oh, I see. We've actually done this before a little bit, potentially. Sends a confirmation email to the user. When are we doing that? Oh, okay, when the users... As this is for device stuff. Okay. Create a manage user account. Okay, so we've done this to check an email got sent, but I think there's like a gem that provides a neater API for that. I can't remember what it's called. Oh, here we go. Email spec. Maybe this is it. Collection of RSpec mini test matches and Cucumber steps for testing email in a Ruby app. So I think this just gives you an API over stuff you're already probably doing. This hasn't been touched for a while, but if it does the job, then maybe it just does the job. Can we look at like, what did we use before? Like Ruby toolbox. And put in email spec. See if there are like other ones. Email spec. These are the same one. Okay. Email spectacular I mean, naming wise, you've really kind of gone pretty hard with if you're calling it email spectacular. Oh, email spectacular. Oh, I see. Hang on. Oh, it's really hot here. That took way too long for my brain to click what they've done there. Okay, fine. These are expressive in email sessions that succinctly describe an email should and should not be sent. I mean, it just hasn't been used, and this one is sort of at the 333 million range, which does lead me to believe that it's probably still rocking and rolling and doing its thing. Is there any bits of issues that are like how people can't use this? No, they all look pretty specific. Okay, let's just check this. Well, actually, let's just remind myself how this actually works. What's the difference between doing this cucumber? Okay, yep. Oh, here we go. So you call the mailer specifically to give yourself an instance of the email. You expect that to be delivered to ask messages have replied to be delivered from. Yeah, I mean, is that a million times neater? I think it probably is. Oh, I see. But when it's saying test them in isolation, it's saying just test them by calling this, not as part of a wider system test, for example. It's saying don't test them outside of isolation. So this is like just for that method. It is often useful to test your mailers in isolation, which is not what we're doing. You can accomplish this by using mocks to verify that the mailer is being called. Simple example from mailer is used correctly in the controller. So this is what we've just done. Which is fine, I guess, but that's not what we're trying to get. I was trying to get these, but it's saying like only. Where's the isolation part gone? Using the helpers when not testing in isolation. Don't seriously. We do just take a look at the helpers and use them. Oh, wait, what? Is it kidding or not? Don't. I thought there was like one, maybe this isn't the one I'm thinking of. I thought there was one where it was like expect user to have received, and you could give it like an email address and it would search it would basically perform, where's the check I've just been looking for? That action mailer deliveries. It would basically, I mean, I guess we could just build one ourselves, but you would say like, it would go and search this for like expect user to have found email with subject line blah blah blah, but it would just be an API around that. Yeah, maybe I'm just thinking of a different one. Let's see what email spectacular does. And what is email in that scenario where you... What is email here? Is this just for testing the mailers? Okay, maybe this isn't that useful and I can just do this. I'll write a helper for this at some point. We'll do our own. Right, so this system test has actually been converted to a sort of more like cucumber-y style. I mean, I know it's not because it's not doing any inference, but like methods with the description of what's going on in them in it. Here we go. So let's see what we've got here. Should we do this while we're here? What is this? Why does this one start with an and I? That doesn't seem right. Oh, because it's got include context, I guess. Okay. All right, let's at least swap one of these out then. So let's do. There is definitely something wonky going on with VS Code today. I'm not sure what's happening. I didn't mean to move that beside each other, although actually it's pretty handy now that it's there. So here, let's do. Oh, these are from the really early system tests because this one does like orders new rather than new order path. Okay, so then in here, if we collapse these down. I can't do it with that. When I visit the order page. Okay. So now, yeah, I'm swapping the style of these out just to match the others because I think this was sort of where I wanted to go with them all, but this must have been one of the first ones. Because you know you're just going to do the same ones over and over again. Okay, so then we want and I to valid order details. Oh, I've got this. Is this the new scroll syncing thing? Yeah, okay. So that's new. These are scrolling alongside each other. I wondered why that was freaking me out. Okay, fine. That's new in VS Code, I think. Which is pretty handy. For most of the time, you probably are looking at things side by side. I don't know how to turn it change scroll sync mode. Can I just turn it off? don't know how to turn it off. Toggle sync scroll. Okay, great. I need to work out what the keyboard shortcut is for that because that's pretty helpful. All right, so then I've got and I enter valid things. Let's leave that one as was. Yeah. Do these get changed to and I should? What is it like? Given, when, then? Should see a. Okay, so that, I'm just doing this first, so then I can put in a like Oops. Oops. I can't paste the right thing. Oh, I didn't change it. I didn't copy it. I want this one. Okay, so nothing should have changed here. All I've done is change the syntax and style of the test. So that everything here should be the same, right? So let's copy that. Paste it in there. So these should all pass. Because all we've done is wrap a bunch of the same lines of code, but just in methods that have fancy names. It's taking its time. My laptop is really doing some heavy lifting. I'm not sure what's going on today. Great. Okay, cool. So, wasn't you have two? Then I think. Receive confirmation email. And so hopefully over here we can just lift this here. And we've hard coded the email. So this test is actually stupid because it is testing that. Yeah, that doesn't feel great, but I'm not going to bother with that now. We'll just know that we need to come back and put in our own little... I guess that is right. Like, we're just saying, did that email address get any email? Because we should pass the subject line, but we... like, yeah, fine. It'll do for now. So then run that test again. Very rough here, very rough. But we're aware of that. Like, this is just code we do for the stream, so we can just sacrifice some diligence. So like I was saying, next week I sort of want to get to okay, that works. I want to get to like back to planning and having a cohesive thing. Because I think a kind of cohesive plan, because I think we did move things forward pretty well when there was some plan, and now I've just, for the last few weeks, I've just sort of been and I missed a couple weeks because I was away, so I've just sort of been messing around a little bit. So it's all useful. We're just dragging this forward very glacially, but we sort of want to get back to it. Okay, so we're sending the email. We've added a test that we are calling the mailer, and we have added a test that the mail arrives. And we've refactored these tests slightly to use this new syntax, but only one of them. Fine. I think we're just going to chuck all of that in one commit for now. We're not too fussed about the diligence of writing up that. We are aware that this email is nonsense. The way we're sending it is probably not great. And it's hard-coded to go to the email address, to a single email address rather than the actual person that ordered. We're ignoring all of that. Okay, so add initial. Oh, this doesn't need to be that, just adding it. Let's put send confirmation email when creating order. This is a non-functioning. It's not non-functioning, it does function, but this is like a added as like a placeholder for to indicate the final goal. Send an email to the order owner on completion. This commit. We've updated one of the system specs to use a more like behavioral syntax. I don't know if that's like, it's not an official BDD thing because it doesn't do what Cucumber does and like actually infers the thing being tested from the like, and then I do X. But I don't know how else to describe it, and I don't really need to get into it now. Which we've already started using elsewhere. I'm actually going to be a bit more specific up here. This is not the recipient email address is hard-coded. Creation flow, yeah. Love how that little, I have a little VS Code extension that wraps to a certain line length on a keyboard shortcut, but it checks to see if you're in a little bullet point. It's really helpful. It makes me really appreciate the person who wrote that little extension. And so recipient address is hard coded. Why else is this bad? It's bad because I mean, oh yeah, the email doesn't have any content. Content. None of the diligence around order creation is done yet. Okay, fine. I'm just going to chuck that in because that technically meets our requirement here of send a confirmation email to the successful user. So we've put in some placeholder behavior. Please tell me I saved everything before committing that. Why is that still showing as? Okay, cool. Okay, great. Yeah. So that's sort of everything that had been ticked off the list. So what we've now got, what have we now got? We've now got an application with loads of what I didn't want to get to on this application. But because we only do the stream every week and things in real life take a really long time, each week I don't just want to gradually move the same thing forward again. So what I tend to do is just sort of like hand wave over any kind of planning or diligence, crack into it and just do what I'm in the mood for. Put in some placeholder stuff and be like, okay, well, this is how this would work if we were to actually finish it, but this doesn't work because I'm only spending 90 minutes on it on a Sunday morning. So what we now have is sort of an app that has bits and bobs of things that sort of do the right thing in the right place, but don't actually do it. They just sort of, where it would go if you were to actually finish it out. That's what we did with the previous application we did on this stream, and you get to a certain point of that and then nothing is you can't get any further because nothing previous has ever been finished, so you can't get to the next stage of where you're trying to get to with the application. So like I said, next week we want to go back and actually put a plan together of actually finishing those things. And I think it'll be fine to do kind of going back and finishing something that's half implemented or half done is fine. It's when I find that if I'm just doing it every week and I'm just coming in and just moving that same thing forward, I just get really, it's not sort of what I want to do on the stream. Whereas if I come back to it after a while, it'll feel a bit new and more interesting. Because this is the nuts and bolts stuff. I mean, in reality, we would be this far along with that in real life. How long have we been working on this? Like a few months, but only for a couple of hours of stream. So in reality, we've probably done less than a few days work on it in total, plus I babble on like this in between. So you could get an application to where we are within a day easily, I would imagine, a couple of days. So it's really working on the stream is not the same as working on that if we were just like heads down. And plus we would have spent ages designing and planning the thing first. I say this all the time, but I think it's worth highlighting. So that's what we're going to do next week. That's what we're going to do next week. But the last thing I put on the list was seed data. And I was thinking about this recently for a different application. I built like a little, I'm just looking down because I've actually got some example code from what I had before. And I'm interested to see how other people do this. Because I quite liked what I ended up with, but I'm not sure how scalable it was. So seed data in Rails apps. To see what other people, we're just going to have a quick Google around and see what other people have got. And then I'm going to talk about, depending on what they've got, let's see what I did previously and whether we like it or not. Seeding CSV. Okay. I haven't used a seed file, a CSV file for seed. Seeding Heroku. Oh, okay, that's it. Okay, I have not used a CSV file for that. That would be kind of interesting. I don't know if I would find that any more descriptive than the approach I've taken previously. Okay, these are... Oh, here we go. This one's interesting. So this is what are seeds, premium environment, what is faker, what is environment rules? Seeding data, getting data from production. Right, so this one here at 1150 touches on what sort of becomes an approach once you hit a certain scale, which is where you might want an anonymized or pseudonymous anonymized version of your production database for your seed data, because it's more representative of your actual usage. So you can build something into your infrastructure that grabs a truncated version of all of your tables, anything that shouldn't be in your development databases or in staging or anything else. you can run something over it as you're taking it out, so you literally don't have to worry about that. And then you end up with this sort of representative data set that has all of the same quirks and foibles and broken stuff from your real database, and you then make it available somehow to local or staging. That is probably... Well, to start with, you won't have a production database, so it's probably something that only kind of becomes feasible at a certain point later on. And it's also something that requires real diligence, because you just don't want users' real information on your local machine. For people in the EU, you have like GDPR issues and like all of those fun things. You don't necessarily want other engineers on your team. If you're just onboarding someone new, you don't want them to have a bunch of production data on their machine. You don't want them necessarily to have access to just all of those things. It's just not a good idea in general. So when you do make that available, you want to make sure and that you've done all that diligence to clean the information, so it is just like a representative data set. And so it could be like just swapping out email addresses, swapping out names. You can use Faker or something else for that. So as you pull the data out, you just anonymize it, and then but anything where you've got user generated comments, for example, maybe they all get swapped out with random strings, stuff like that. But before you have that, you might want to just build something from seeds. I'm not going to have time to look through those videos. Just going to see if anyone's got anything beyond. I think maybe... Yeah, just looking for other examples of non-standard. Right, so this is one is SQL scripts. That makes a... no, that's the schema. So where are they doing the... Everyone is just using seeds. Okay. Well, let me run through how I approached this previously. Ah, here we go. This is what I was looking for. Maybe there's gems that can do this for us. Okay, here we go. Within your seed file, you can use the Sprig directive to initiate Sprig's dark magics. A simple directive might let Sprig user post comment for shared seeds. Sprig shared user post comments. The directive says go and find your data files for the user post and comment seed resources. Build resources from the data entries and set them into the database. YAML, JSON, or CSV with your environment-specific seed directory. Right, okay. This is basically exactly what I ended up with, but customized, and I didn't use YAML for it. I just used Ruby. Yeah, okay. So yeah, okay, cool. So this is sort of the kind of thing I was looking at. This is definitely something, hang on, let me put a link to this in the YouTube video description for this stream. What's it called? Sprig for Rails seeds. Okay, I've put it in the YouTube video description for this stream. So it's basically around coming up with some sort of mechanism to say, hey, having a bunch of raw data in the system is useful. Like having 10 users, okay, that's really helpful, but that's actually not always that helpful if the things that you're trying to regularly work on require specific relationships between the data that you're creating. And so what do I mean by that? You have 10 users in the system, but what you actually want to test in our application is that one of them has 5 orders from a specific organization, 2 of which have failed, and you know they've got themselves I don't know, some other couple of attributes that just get you into this thing, this state that you need to care about. And so what I ended up doing, I'm just going to reference the code on the other screen because I can't remember it that well. And it's for another code base. I'm not going to show it on here. But I ended up with these seeds. I'm actually going to grab, I'm going to grab this whole model. I'm going to see if we can just do, it's my code, so like I own it. I'm not taking it from like a contractor or anything like that. So let's do the same thing here. So I've put it in lib seeds. Okay, so lib seeds. And I'm assuming, did I have to add this to, oh, okay. Just going to look and see if I had to add that to a specific loading path somewhere. No, that seems to have been fine. Or maybe I hard-coded the path somewhere. Okay, let's not worry about that. So in libseeds, what I then, and I think I was really using FactoryBot as like a as a driver here. So this is seeds. Seed base, I called it. Although I think this would just be base. And this is an association, so I think that can probably go, because that would now be, I was using file assets, but I think that would now be active storage associations. So that can go for now, but I think that might be... Oh, it doesn't do anything anyway. You just set it, or maybe you look at it later. Okay, let's pull that out, but I think that's active storage associations. So we'll come back to that. And then looks like I had some sort of response object. Don't know what this was for. Let's go and look at that. So then we have... It's like looking at code from years ago and working out what I was trying to... Ah. There's really something going on with my VS Code today. Really something happening. Seed. What's going on? Seed. Response. And then that is a really simple response object by the looks of it. Okay, so I've obviously decided that that's what I want to return. So that's the base. And then what else did I do after that? So they would have to implement this generate data model. So each seed that we implement in here has a generate data method, sorry, not model, method. And it generates itself, it generates an instance of itself. So let's do user. I think it's because this isn't. And I'm literally copying from the other screen, by the way. I'm sort of copying. This is from years ago, so this might be a really bad idea. Like this might, but it did work. Like we used this. So this then had a generate data model. This would then do stuff. And it sort of didn't matter what it did. Just looking through what it did do. So you have a bunch of attributes that you are passing through to the seed base, right? So there's attributes there. And maybe this probably doesn't work very well if you... shove that in there. And then I had a method called this. I'm just looking through what I had. Excuse me, sorry. So I'm not writing this. I'm just copying what I have done previously and looking through to see what I like. So somewhere we're going to say, hey, I want a user seed. And please create one for me. And so that's different from calling just a user record, right? Like, and the idea being is that here we're defining a bunch of stuff that we want to be defaults. So for example, it's seed data. So you probably want like their password to all be the same because you don't want to have to well, actually, you don't even need this. It's seed data, so you could just I don't know what the requirements are. Maybe it could be password. And so now, rather than in your seed data having to be like user.create, like in your seeds.rb, and then passing all of this through every time, you can. This gives you a little toolbox, a lot like FactoryBot, which again I was really using as an example, to be like, hey, you can set defaults, you can do whatever you want. And the other thing I had was traits. So how does traits work? So where did implement traits get called? I think we sort of didn't mandate this. This is really loose by me, but I think this was... It needed to be... optional, potentially. So it was like... here? But I think sometimes we wanted to call implement traits... inside this model. So I think this was just right. So in generate data, here we would do something like yeah, I don't know if I'm not really naming this very well, but I'm basically saying like we want to do that first. Then implement the traits. But this, I would tidy this API up if I wanted to, like if this was a gem or something, but for internal use, maybe just being a bit messy is fine, especially on the stream. But what it would do is it would say, okay, well I know that there is this array of traits that are available. For each one, loop over it and try and have a method that, that just is prefixed with implement. So you could have a trait called, what do we have on our user? Do we have admin or something like that? I don't think we have anything on our user. Like confirmed would be a good example, I guess. So you could do implement traits, and then here you would do implement confirmed. And then this would be, you'd already have the instance variable of the user at this point, and then you would do like confirmed at. And because it's a trait, you're not looking for anything to be passed through here. So you can just do like time.current or something like that. Or maybe I suppose it's seed data, not test data. So yeah, maybe that is fine that it's time.current. So you're not looking to pass anything through, because if you did need something specified, you could do that yourself. Like you don't have to use this general seed. So I'm hoping this is making some sense as to how we did this the first time through. So we would say seeds.userseed. Something. Did seed base give us? Oh, dot generate. I see. So dot generate, and then that would bring us back When did we return the response? Sorry, again, I'm just going back to my... Because I think that this would then... This hasn't actually saved anything, right? Like, this is just implemented stuff. So then we would need to be like... And again, we could do all of this. This is all... We didn't run tests over any of this. This was just to get us out the door. This would be use a dot. Save. Again, just put a bang method in there. It is just for internal use, just to be maintained. And then it would return the user. So this would be seeds.userseed.generate. And generate would take in... No, seeds.userseed.new. Pass in the attributes, pass in the traits. Then .generate. And it would bring you back this user. With the attributes that you'd passed in. And any traits that you'd specified. And bear with me, I'm going to keep going on this because this is messy as hell, but like... You get the gist. So where did the response come in? Where did I use that? Ever? Maybe I just didn't use it. Maybe I'll just copy that. Oh no, here. So sorry. We instantiate it there. Oh, okay. Must have on some other seeds where I would be like, hey, this doesn't work. Oh, I see. So for some of them, I didn't use a bang method. I actually did say if I was trying to save associations or anything like that. Okay, fine. And would actually try and be more relevant as to why it had failed. Okay, so I was obviously heading in the direction of doing some proper work, but at the moment, that can live there for now. But it doesn't. We're not actually using this response because we're just using a bang method when we go to save this. Okay, so this gives us some API that we've just made up out of nowhere to get a record created in a database as part of our seed data. So if we then go into... Where does any of this stuff live? DB seeds? Great. Okay, so this is basically this, right? We already have some very rough seed data. So what we could now replace this with, and again, here we've got password as password, but this could now be user equals seeds. I've already forgot. User seed. What's the API for this? Seeds user seed. Dot new. And then this would take attributes and it would take traits. So the trait, so this is confirmed at, right? So like we're setting time.now. And so this would be traits. Confirmed. And you need to know the name of the traits, but you've set them up. Again, kind of like factory bot. And this would implement confirmed because it would look at, let's put these in order. So in here, you would call traits confirmed. And that is calling, that's using this traits array here. And then because within the individual seed, we're calling implement traits, that's actually calling this method here on the base model, which is for each trait, which is just a string in an array, for each one, find it, select it from the array, why didn't we just do... Yeah, I think there's a quicker way to do that. Can we not do traits minus... Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I think this worked. For each one... Oh, I see. Okay, so this, I think, just validates that the trait is in the array in the first place. I'm assuming that's what we're trying to do there. Rather than just doing traits... dot each, which we could do. this one is just saying, is this in... Yeah, I'm not sure what that's doing. Traits.select. Traits.include. So is it in that array? Okay. I don't know why we're doing that. Rather than just doing traits.each. Either way, that then calls implement underscore name of trait. And here we're doing confirmed, which is the name of the trait we passed in. And then that will set this attribute on the instantiated version here before it gets saved. So this means that we don't need to pass a password in. So that then goes away for the setting of email address. But we could do, if we wanted to, because I think... Yeah, I think this gets merged over the default. So we could pass it in and it would overwrite it, which is great. So that's fine, but we don't need that. We can just use the default one. Then all users will have the default password. Email will get passed in, but maybe we could put in a little generator here that generated a random email address. So we didn't need to do that. We didn't need to assign that. Maybe they would just get a generate random one maybe. And then confirmed that can go because we've added confirmed. Right, so that's the same thing. So all we actually need here is to pass this email address in, simply because we haven't added it to the seed. Like that. No. Like that. Great, so I think these are equivalents. So I think this now gives us the same thing. Should we see if that works? Because the other thing we could start to do is decide if the seeds allow you to, like, well, we'll come on to like running seeds multiple times in the next part. So here we could do, there's nothing in our local database that we care about, right? So, it's our server running. Yeah, okay, fine. I'm bound to kick myself for this because I've been using that same test user for weeks. But this will force us to have good seed data, right? Like we drop the database and recreate the database. We can just do schema load to give us our tables. And then let's see if we can run this and have a user, and we can see if we can sign in as that user. So then we can Rails DB seed. Oh, I did need to add seeds. Okay, so I couldn't see previously. I think this might be a quirk of the old Rails version doing auto loading within lib. I think I need to tell it to get, no, it's application, isn't it? I think I need to say, hey, can you include this path? Is it? Is it this? Great. Okay, cool. So db drop. Can I do these? Can you like stack these? Cool. Okay, and then I missed on db schema load. Oh, that ran? Okay, cool. And then DB seed. Did you mean seed base? Oh, okay. Hang on. Am I seed base? If I do console, do I get the same thing? I'm just trying to get these loaded in. So can I do? I said, did you mean seed base? So is that loaded? No. It says, did you mean seed base? From lib seeds seed base. So it knows where it's getting it from. An uninitialized constant seeds. Oh, I see. Because it's already in a directory called seeds. Do I need to put like... No, that's the same thing, right? But this is not picking that up as a namespace because it's where I'm getting them from. Hang on a second, I'm just not sure on my Rails 7 auto load namespace. So people are just adding lib. Is that a good idea? It's not there by default, so... Because presumably if I put a folder in here called seeds, does that then work? Wait, why is there something in there called tasks? Did I accidentally just move that in? Yes. Okay, so they now live in there. So if I exit this and recreate it, do I now have a namespace in there? This is a real blind spot in my... Okay, cool. So that doesn't make any sense in terms of doing that the right way. So because I've included lib/seeds, it doesn't see seeds as the namespace. But if I put another directory within seeds called seeds, it then does see seeds as the namespace. So what someone here has suggested doing is just adding lib to the... I'm eager loading rows rather than auto loading those. Maybe it's because I'm doing that. So maybe that's not what I want. Is that start outline? Yeah, okay. And then maybe what I actually want is auto load paths. So maybe that changes it. Let's exit this, go back in. Okay, this is fun. We've sort of ended up on a Zeitwerk auto loading No, okay, that still does work. Okay, so we actually want... Oh, man. I really am not going to go down this rabbit hole, and just leaving 2 folders there feels like the short cut. I'm skimming for... Okay, so auto load namespace. Can I force a namespace for Rails auto loading without nesting? Okay. You can also load files with namespaces corresponding directions inside app by adding app to your auto load paths. Grant, that means loading everything in. I'm sort of looking to be more specific. If lib isn't in the default, I assume it's not in the default for a reason. App view bar. To auto load paths. That's exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so this one's saying from Rails 4 go to auto load then to eager load. I'm not quite sure I remember the difference between auto load. Site worker modules nested in classes. Let's see if this one is any different. Maybe we don't care about this enough for now, but I am sort of curious. Oh, wait, what? Well, that's loader.push dir. The way Rails autoloader works, both the classic and is that the immediate subdirectory of the app folder are root directories. That means that the autoloader will look for the root level constants for those directories. That's if you wanted to find foo's bar, you would need to place the file in app foo's bar. Okay, great. If you want to avoid that and place the constant in the app integrations module, a base service, you need to push the directory with a custom namespace into so loader push directory. Okay, let's take a look at this. Just seeing if this uses... Okay, I can't see namespace being passed in. Okay, let's just leave it as 2 folders for now. It's fine. Anyway, that works. So now we should be able to come out of here and do... let's just do them all as one. So that's doing drop, create, schema load, and seed, all in one command. User expected got... Interesting. Where is that? So here, line 24. Oh, because... Oh, I see. Yeah. So we actually want dot generate on the end of that. Because that's the thing that actually performs the save. So let's see if this goes through. Okay, great. So we got to the other end, and now we should be able to kick up a server. And we can test that we can sign in with this email address. Here. Sign in. And password. And we know that it's password because that is the default attribute set on our seed. Great. So we're now logged in as our seed. Now the seed also has whatever this thing here, this organization here has this organization membership because that's created here further down in our seeds directory. Great. Okay, so here we have a set of seed objects that are similar to factory bot. They accept traits, and we can sort of play and do different things in here. This is just an API that we're building out to do our own seed stuff, and you can start to see how you could have a seed that represented I don't know, at the moment they're all one database record or one model, but maybe they wouldn't be. Like maybe you could have you could start to group things and treat them a bit more like form objects, where you could say, well, this is actually you know, a successful registration could be a seed or something like that. Maybe not, I don't know. So that gets you somewhere, and you swap out all of the calls, all of the usage of active record models directly in your seeds folder, and you start to create this reliance on your seed API. Great. Okay, cool. Maybe you like that, maybe you don't, whatever. But what you still end up with is just the raw records. You then need them to interact with each other. So what do I mean by that? So here we've got a couple of organizations, we have a user, and then we have the organization memberships being created. Well, this requirement will only grow as things get more complicated, because you need, much like the setup for tests, you start to rely on traits within factory bots to start to do more and more. And for testing, you're like, well, actually, I don't want too complex a scenario to get set up, because that's not what our tests are for. But in our seed data, we do want complex scenarios to be potentially generated, because we might want that to be our maybe for demos, for demonstration purposes when we're doing our development environment, maybe for debugging, maybe for feature development. You're always working on a feature that requires like a group of users in a certain circumstance, or a bulk set of data being available, or blah, 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 that has to meet these really specific criteria. So for that, what I opted for, and I'm just searching around for the rest of this code because I did it elsewhere, was scenarios. And so in lib.seeds, we created a folder. Yes, I'm just looking at where I put it. So we created a folder called, oh, for God's sake, scenarios. And in here, again, I'm looking at what we actually had. So this would be like, you can call, we could call these whatever we want, but this could be like demo organization. And so this would then be seeds, scenarios, demo, organization. And an organization doesn't justify a scenario. That's just a seed. But bear with me. We'll figure one out. And these also, I'm just looking here. Would also use our response objects, because we were starting to do things like associate errors with them and things like that. It's just like, again, this seed response object is basically like sort of like a fake active record, active model pattern, where you could just put stuff in the areas and be like, hey, this didn't work, something went wonky here, and you could bail by checking it. So here, do we have a base scenario? Hang on, I'm just checking. So ellipses. No, so they each then, how to generate method, sorry. And what did we do in here? Right, I was obviously playing with this API. So I haven't finished this out, so I'm just grabbing a few bits and bobs out. So in here, what I can find is this. And again, you're then doing like organization, user A, user B. And so what you're then doing in this scenario is defining all of the complexity of this individual scenario that you need to generate. So it's not just a user, it's not an organization or something basic. It's like, okay, well, here we're going to need to do more than that. So we're going to need organization with user A and user B. We're going to need to do, I don't know, there'd be something fancy that they needed. There'd be like failed reg A or something like that. Like maybe you would need an event for that failed thing. So you're basically playing this step-by-step thing that you need to create, but all of the attributes for those are in here, because you can then do, because all you're doing is just doing generate underscore whatever's in here. And this could all be like private here if you wanted it to be. And so this is just like, there's nothing world changing in here. There's just like a homegrown, so generate organization. And in here, you're then still using your seeds, right? So you're then doing like seeds, what are they called? Seed, user seed, so it'd be seeds, organization seed. So you then still have access to all your traits and things like that from within here. And that is presumably storing it as organization. And so you can start to use that throughout the thing. And then as you build these out, as you build these scenarios out, you then find things like generate content that are going to need to be on each scenario. So you could then potentially have like a base, and that could be and so maybe this specifies what they are to the arguments for the initialize method. It might automatically have one of these, like maybe it doesn't, maybe generate always just calls generate content and requires each one to do that. Or maybe all of this is in there. Like maybe that's all in the base and this just inherits from the base. Again, I haven't built this out yet. So seeds, scenarios, base. And then all of this could go and live in here. I don't know, that probably seems like a bad idea, but whatever. And so I found this really like helpful. I don't know how other people do this, whether they, so I saw the CSV one, like YAML files, things like that, but the quirks of your complexity of what you're trying to do often sort of end up, if you just have a bunch of Ruby objects, it's sort of easier to do in Ruby, and this just gives you a structure for them. And then, right, so then there was one last part to this, which was creating rake tasks for individual ones. So what I then think we did was... Just looking at this. So then in lib tasks, we had one called load seed scenarios dot rake. And in here, then we would call each individual scenario and call generate, and then some stuff here. So I'm just copying and pasting some stuff out. So this would be like scenario equals whatever our first scenario is. This one will do like that. And so this would be our default set. So then you could have this one build all of them. But you could also pass in, if you wanted to, arguments to the rake task that would specify which ones it was willing to generate. So you could then have, if you remember a little while ago, we looked at Heroku review apps. And in a Heroku review app, you could build a demo app and you can give it a set of tasks that it needs to do. So it'll usually be like DB schema load, DB create, all of that stuff. And sometimes you might give it DB seed, but it would need to generate all the seeds every time. And so that's just like you're just adding time. But you can start to do things where you can make them smarter. And so you can just load up different scenarios based on what you actually need to test just for that individual review app. So you might have a PR that goes up and is testing just something complicated to do with bulk export or something. So you need 1,000 records in there or 10,000 records or something like that. But you don't want to generate that every time because it just adds a few seconds to your deploy time of your review app, and it's just over time you don't need that. So you can be selective about which scenarios, seed scenarios I'm talking about here, got built based on the review app. So there was stuff that we were playing with around that. I haven't really started to stretch that too far, but it was fun. I found this useful. The maintenance overhead here is real. It is not nothing at all. And so you would really need to consider how much time am I willing to put into this versus like if you're always just working on a certain area of the code base, you might just keep a bunch of setup scripts running. Again, we mentioned at the start of this that you might just try and use production data that's anonymized and use that as your seed data. This isn't like independent of that. You could have that. One of the things we started to look at adding to the scenarios was only generate stuff that hadn't already been generated, so that you could keep calling that same call and it wouldn't fail. So instead of calling those bang methods and things on the seeds, that's where the response object came in, and we were just like, okay, well, this already exists. I'm assuming the seeds have already been run. I'll log the error out and just move on. And so there's loads of fun options that you could do, again, based on how diligent you really care about being with your seed data. I mentioned demos as a good use case for this. That was always something that we were looking to. We used review apps and like a staging environment for demos a lot, either to people that were going to be potential customers, things like that. And so again, maybe this type of seed scenario could be something where you build customer facing demos, but you need to build it out. So maybe you have a seed and you just pass it in all the branding that it needs or something like that, and then it just spits out everything. I have no idea if people how they do this. So this is how I did it once. I think we might try and take this approach again, just because I've got it. But if anyone else has any thoughts or feedback on better approaches to this, I've just seen that Sprig gem. Again, seems to be sort of taking us similar approach in that there are like structures that already exist, and then you're just saying, hey, please create these things, and presumably you can tell it, you can create associations in here, I would guess. And so this is obviously a lighter weight version of, hey, here's a bunch of content I need, because I want to get to way more. The thing I was working from here was way more complex associations, because I just needed like lots of things to be true or very specific. And I didn't, because I would like working in the Ruby files, I didn't feel the need to go to JSON or YAML or anything like that. Anyway, okay, I'm going to wrap it up because that is an hour and 40, and it's super hot today, although I've appreciated having the fan on. Hopefully someone somewhere found this useful at some point. I do appreciate the little YouTube comments I get saying that things are useful. So yeah, let me know. Let me know if you have any other approaches to seed data. I'd love to hear about them and see what people do. And like I said, next week we're going to do more planning, more possibly more sketch designs, and maybe build some of this seed data out. I don't know how vital that is. I just wanted to sort of cover this a little bit because we could just finish our basic seed, like not the scenarios, because that's all we're doing. We could just do organization seed and user seed and just swap out. We could just swap out these two to use the organization seed, and maybe as a trait, an organization accepts a user or something like that. Or we actually create an organization membership seed. Who knows? Who knows? Or we create different seeds that don't represent the record and that instead represent the creation of this membership. Who knows? Anyway, thank you so much for either watching live or checking this out on YouTube later, and have a wonderful week. Don't get too hot if you're in the UK. See you later.